First News with Keeler in the morning on WIBX and WIBX950.com.
Men's, we had an argument in a grocery store. We had an argument earlier this morning. We had an argument at a fitness center where someone stole
really was never any
stuff. And now a men's doubles pickleball match. So what it's showing you is the elderly are angry. A men's doubles pickleball match ended with a winning player being violently kicked in the face.
Jeez.
Here's the final point where one of the losers committed a foot fault, ending the match. When the players went to do the customary tap of the paddles, the overly pumped up winner, Peter Schonk, knocked the paddle out of the hand of the foot faulter's hand. When Schonk down to pick it up, he was kicked so hard in the face, he fell into the net. Here's audio.
Come on! Let's go!
And he kicked it right there. I don't know if you heard that kick.
What is wrong with
Did
people?
you hear that kick?
Yeah.
You can hear the thump. Just listen to this. The thump with the kick.
Oh.
Wow.
What in the hell is wrong with
kicked
people?
him right in the face. Apparently, the guy is okay. No word on whether or not charges were filed. As of the unprofessional journalism, there's no mention of where this happened. We have no idea, but it had to be Florida.
Yeah.
Since there was a ref, this is most likely a tournament play, but not anything major since only 3 people are applauding in the background. Otherwise, they pull out some big numbers on this.
It's the fastest growing sport.
But what is going on? Why are we so intense these days?
I don't know.
What is happening? Dr. Kent Hall, is on the line right now. We talked to the doc about things going on medicinally or medically.
I wonder if he's ever played pickleball. Are you playing a lot of pickleball in retirement, Doc?
No, pickleball is not something that I've picked up.
Not your thing.
All right.
I don't know what it is, but we do have a very stressed out society today where more violent things seem to happen. Maybe it's not that way. I don't know. It just feels that way.
Well, it does feel that way. You're right, and there are. I mean, I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but I will tell you that the last several years have just been really stressful for the population as a whole. I mean, COVID is obviously out there, and that's pretty easy to point at, but there is a lot of what's the best way to put this? There is a lot of people are not as interested in others and in having what it seems like people are not as interested in others and in being, about society as a whole, more about being about themselves.
Yeah, we don't care about being cordial anymore. It seems we don't care about how what you do might affect someone else. The only thing we care about is what we are thinking of. It does seem that way a little bit.
And it also feels like the golden rule isn't as strong or as readily followed as it has been in the past.
I think you're absolutely right. I do think you are correct. I wanted to ask you a couple of things. It does feel like right now when you're as a person, and I'll just use me as an example. Each year I might get a certain thing, get a cold or get a virus of some sort, and you know what you have because the symptoms are the same. You go through this every year, year in, year out. But now I do feel like we get things that we're catching these things that have different symptoms, and it doesn't. You find it hard to recognize the virus or the cold or whatever it is that you have. Are these new strains, or is it just the way we are reacting to them?
So I think it's a little bit of both. I think that that there really are new strains or new things that are coming out, and that the old strains are changing. They're evolving, they're mutating, whatever word you want to use for that. And when it does that, then when it evolves, and think of COVID again as an example, is when it first came out, it had much of it was about lower respiratory issues.
Yeah.
But as it has evolved into much more of an upper respiratory issue, although it continues to have things like, vomiting and diarrhea and things like that as well. So it, as an individual entity virus evolves, the symptoms that they cause, or the primary symptoms that they cause, will also evolve. The other thing that we're seeing is that we're getting better at identifying new things. So something that we thought was the cold, 20 years ago or 30 years ago, because of, more advanced abilities in terms of testing and things like that, we're saying, well, actually, that's something different. And so we're able to parse things out into more of what they actually are. Unfortunately, for many things, we can do that, but it really doesn't change anything because we don't have particular treatments for them. So it doesn't matter if a virus is considered a cold virus, a rhinovirus or whatever, or if it's categorized as something different. The treatment remains the same because we don't have a specific treatment for it.
I wanted to ask you about how we treat this stuff. So what is the best? Is there a best medicine if you've got a cold, you've got maybe it's in your throat or in your chest? Obviously, there are different medicines that you might want to use, an expectorant or what have you. But there just seems to be a lot of junk out there that we're buying year after year, and it really doesn't work. And then, of course, back in September, the FDA announced they are on the verge of getting rid of phenylephrine, I believe is what it is. Mm-hmm. That's one of the ingredients in the Sudafed that you can get over the counter without showing your license. And they're saying that has been in cold medicines for years, and it does not work.
Yeah, this is a crazy story.
So with the stuff that doesn't work, keep that in mind, and then parlay, if you will, to what does work. What's the best way to treat this stuff?
Yeah, so much of the over-the-counter medications, have limited efficacy, certainly. And the other aspect to it, which is why it's difficult to answer your question. I'm really not trying to dodge it, but to answer your question is because people will react differently, and some of that may be related to their own physiology, and some of it may be related to underlying diseases that they have. So as an example, when you have somebody, who has, lung disease, whether it's, chronic bronchitis or, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and emphysema, an expectorant may work better for them than it does for somebody who doesn't have those. So it's really difficult to say globally that, this is the best medicine, because it really depends on the individual person. But I will say that, many of the over-the-counter medications were approved at a time when our approval process was not as rigorous. And, because of that, they've been kind of grandfathered into, we're going to continue to have them available, even though their usefulness is pretty marginal.
They say for cough, I had a doctor say the only one that he would ever recommend is Delsum, because it is purely a cough. There's a drug in there that's a cough suppressant, and that's the only one over the counter that he would use. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that when you're talking about things to take care of a particular symptom, you're better off using something that has a single active ingredient as opposed to multiple. I understand the process of wanting to be able to take a single that takes care of 3 or 4 different symptoms too.
Yeah.
But if your issue is a cough, then you should use something that is truly a cough suppressant. What I would say is, now that we've got the internet and things like that, and one of the that I would say is to go to a reputable site. Mm-hmm. The CDC, the FDA, NIH, places like that, and look at, if you want to choose a medication to take over the counter for a particular symptom, go to one of those reputable sites and say, does this work? Is it effective?
Yeah.
Because what you will find is you will find studies that showed that, it is effective 60% of the time or 70% of the time, which in and of itself tells you that means that 40% of the time it's not going to work.
Right.
So there is a marginal effect, but not necessarily a total effect.
I've been back and forth with my wife on this, and I'm pretty darn sure I am correct. Just trying to convince her that vodka does a great job in dealing with a cold. It really will. Yeah, maybe
loosens everything up.
Maybe not. All right, but here's the big one. I know people that swear by popping the zinc pills, or there are zinc tablets you can get over the counter and that sort of thing to combat their cold, and they catch it early, and it supposedly reduces the cold. What are your thoughts? I have never felt like it has worked for me.
So there are two aspects to that. The first is theoretical. So the way that zinc is used within the immune system, you would say, oh, it makes sense. It bolsters the immune system. It should therefore, have an effect on things that your immune system combats, like the cold. Unfortunately, there is no hard evidence to show that zinc itself does anything to either limit cold symptoms, to decrease the length of time, or actually protect you from getting a cold. So there's a theoretical aspect to it. Then there's the proof that we have. Yeah. And again, the proof that we have is not overly robust, as we say in the biz. It is not, we have a definitive study on this, a double-blind, placebo-controlled study on the use of zinc for it, because number one, doing that would be very difficult and very expensive, and because there isn't any company that's going to benefit from it, because zinc is zinc. Nobody is going to fund that. And so we will probably never have a definitive answer. But right now, the best evidence that we have, which is not perfect, but the best evidence that we have is that taking extra zinc really doesn't do anything in terms of treatment or decreasing the length of time that you have cold.
And they say vitamin C, the same thing. Really doesn't really do all that much.
I'm sorry.
Vitamin C.
Vitamin C is the same. No, that we do have a little, because that has been something that is that has been of interest to people. We do have knowledge about vitamin C that shows that it does decrease length of cold symptoms by about 10%.
Wow.
But that means that you decrease the overall duration of a cold by about 6 hours.
Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Although I don't know what it is about these colds right now, but it seems like you get them, and whether they're COVID related or what, and it lasts for a month and a half, it just doesn't go away.
Yeah.
So this is just, it is. And then somebody asking about the uprise in whooping cough in the area.
Yeah, Madison County got it. Yeah, has it bad.
Yeah, so we are seeing an increase in whooping cough. That is for a couple of reasons. We're seeing it in adults because they actually need to be re-immunized. They need an update to their immunization, and many adults haven't gotten it. And unfortunately, we're also seeing it in kids, and that's more related to the whole thing about people being concerned about vaccines and things, and that's unfortunate, because whooping cough will kill kids, and the vaccine works well to prevent that.
And then one more listener asking, why are the Dallas Cowboys so ill? I don't know. I don't think we can answer that, Doc. To be honest with you, we just don't know.
I don't think that's a medical issue.
Probably not. All right, Doc. As always, we appreciate the insight. Thank you so much. We'll do it again soon.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Please be safe.
All right,
you too, Doc.
Dr. Kent Hall. And number one, we learned he's not playing pickleball.
No, he's not.
Number two, he doesn't want to touch the Dallas Cowboys question.
Right.
They do seem ill, though.